So there's a DNC chair candidate named Ray Buckley, and more, I think that he is proving to progressives that he is willing to be introspective and talk about where the Democratic Party previously failed. Now, this is someone who made a horrible first impression on me because at the first DNC debate, well, he refused to raise his hand when he was asked whether or not the DNC tipped the scales in favor of Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders. So I'm not going to forget that. However, with that being said, I will be fair to him, and I want you guys to hear him out because he does have some criticisms of Hillary Clinton and Debbie Wasserman Schultz that I think are actually pretty sound. So when it comes to Hillary Clinton and how she ran her campaign, here's what he thinks Hillary Clinton did wrong.
When we're running hundreds of millions of dollars worth of commercials, telling the voters that, oh, our opponent is offensive, when you're worrying about your damn paycheck, you're worrying about your job, you're worrying about where you're going to live, if your kids are ever going to go to school, they don't really give a crap about if the president is an insult dog. The reality is, we did not offer a positive message to anyone that I'm related to. We did not offer a message to my neighbors. We did not offer a message to the people in Indiana or Ohio or Pennsylvania or Kentucky. What we did is we said, how offensive. Grow up.
So I totally agree with that. That was not too bad because I think he's right. Yes, it was the case that Hillary Clinton, her campaign focused too much on Donald Trump, and she failed to deliver a message to voters as to what she would do. You know, all she had was platitudes, a stronger together. And that doesn't resonate with voters. I'm with her does not tell voters who are hurting right now what you're going to do for them. So I like that he's willing to call out Hillary Clinton and people within the Democratic Party and talk about where they went wrong. Now, in an interview with Nomiki Konst of TYT Politics, he tried to redeem himself for not raising his hand at that first DNC debate, and he talked about what the DNC did to tip the scales and what Debbie Wasserman Schultz did wrong that harmed and disenfranchised Bernie Sanders supporters.
We're past the discussion of whether there was a thumb on the scale or not.
Right.
Because there was an appearance of the thumb on the scale. So if you're doing something that creates the appearance, it's just as bad. So you can't do anything that even creates that sort of appearance. And so I don't think we'll ever know definitively.
Right.
But the fact is that there was certainly more opportunities to have that appearance, and that was wrong.
So I think that after not raising his hand and admitting that the primary was rigged against Bernie Sanders, I do think that answer was a step in the right direction. However, I'm not willing to give him full credit here because I want you to be clear about what he's doing. I want to be clear about what he's doing, that is. He's giving himself some wiggle room. See, he doesn't want to unequivocally state that the primary was rigged against Bernie Sanders because that would certainly make the establishment upset. But at the same time, he does want to pander to Bernie Sanders because we are an integral part of the Democratic Party, and he has to hear us out. So I think that this is kind of a sneaky move that he's doing here, and he's trying to walk a fine line between trying to pander to Bernie supporters and also pander to the establishment. So this is still a disappointing response because facts are facts. I don't care if you piss off the establishment or piss off the Hillary Clinton wing of the party by admitting the fact that the DNC did create rules that would favor Hillary Clinton. Now, I don't need to get into all the details right now, but he did imply that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was not neutral. So, I mean, it's kind of contradictory because he's not really saying unequivocally that the primary is rigged, but he is saying that the DNC did violate their own charter inadvertently. So if Debbie Wasserman Schultz was not neutral.
And as the chair of the First Nation primary, I'm absolutely committed to making sure that we are 100% neutral. Mm-hmm. And I have done that, whether it was walking Bernie in to make sure that he got to be on the ballot, or it's making sure that the rooms always had the same percentage of, we would block the sale of tickets to our dinners to known supporters so that neither side could overwhelm the other at the events. I mean, we really worked very hard to be fair as possible.
Now, I actually do believe him when he does say he's committed to 100% neutrality, because he actually was neutral during the New Hampshire primary, and he even called out Pete Buttigieg for not being neutral. So ABC News explains the longtime chair of the state party in New Hampshire, Ray Buckley, went on the offensive against Buttigieg on Saturday and chided the mayor for having backed Clinton. Buckley emphasized that after he stayed neutral in the 2016 race, Sanders won his state by a landslide. So I think that's a great response. I do believe that he's going to be neutral because he was in fact neutral in 2016. However, the DNC's bias against Bernie Sanders goes further than a lack of neutrality. I want to know what he thinks about the debates and about closed primaries. Well, here's what he had to say about that.
The debates, the chair should never have that sort of authority. I think it needs to be put into the role of the full executive committee, over 40 members from all walks of life. They should have that authority of determining what the debate schedule is. I think at the very least, you would have people that were then agreeing with you versus the situation that happened last time where she was standing alone. I think the caucuses, I think that the enthusiasm that folks had for the candidates, and they would show up, and the state parties were not capable. Remember, state parties weren't getting the support, so many of them have 2 or 3 employees, and you're literally dealing with tens of thousands of people showing up. How could you process all of them? How could you get them all involved? And so it looked chaotic, it looked crazy, and it just didn't work. And I traveled to Maine to help out, I traveled to Nevada to help out, and the DNC had a position of they didn't want to get involved. Well, I think the DNC needs to go in there and supplement to make sure that everyone gets, this is about voting rights as far as I'm concerned.
How can you say that you're for voting rights on a national level when in New York, for instance, a judge just ordered said that people's voting their ballots during the primary were eliminated? That's against the law. I mean, that's happened all over the country. Arizona, my grandmother's been voting in Arizona since 1946. Was denied at the polls during the primary because she wasn't a Democrat. They said.
Yeah, I mean, we have a different system in New Hampshire.
Right.
We do have voter registration, unlike there are many states that don't have any voter registration, but in New Hampshire we do. But we allow any independent or unregistered person, because we have same-day voter registration. You could wake up late in the afternoon and decide, you know what, I'm going to go vote. And they go, they register, and they get to vote. And you take a Democratic ballot, you become declared a Democrat for that time period, and on your way out, you sign a postcard saying that you want to revert to being an independent. It's that simple. I think, now other people may disagree, but I think having the more amount of people involved in your primary and your nominating process means that you're going to have those people listening to your candidates going into the general election. I'm not obsessed about who's a registered Democrat in New Hampshire. I really gave up thinking about that years ago when I said, as long as they're voting Democratic, what do I care if they're actually a registered Democrat?
So, I mean, when it comes to closed primaries, he's saying the right things. He's logically sound. When it comes to the debate schedule, I'll say the same thing that I told Sam Ronan. I want him to commit to more debates and not less. I don't necessarily, I appreciate the fact that they're willing to make the debate schedule fair, and they want to determine it based on fair standards, but I want a DNC chair to commit right now to 25 debates, no less. So, he is saying the right things, and I think certainly at this point, he's not the worst candidate, but he's certainly not the best, so I would probably rank Ray Buckley as my third choice. So number 1 is definitely Sam Ronan, hands down, and then a distant second you have Keith Ellison, and then a distant third you have Ray Buckley. So I still think that Sam Ronan or Keith Ellison would be the better choices, but Ray Buckley, I think that he's done a lot to regain the trust of progressives after having a really rocky start at the beginning of the DNC chair race. So I just wanted to give you guys some information about Ray Buckley because I think that we need to know about these people who want to be the leader of the resistance to Donald Trump. So, there you have it. I'll allow you guys to make your own decision.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.